What's up, YouTube? Special shout out to the new subscribers and old subscribers here on the channel. Appreciate your support. Welcome to another episode of my weekly training vlog series where I'm talking through all of the training that I'm doing to prepare for Ironman Texas, my second attempt at a full Ironman race, which is coming up in just 3 weeks on April 26th. Now, there's a bit of an asterisk there when I say 3 weeks because I said 3 weeks last week as well. Now, I just realized that by looking at the event here in Training Peaks and basing my weekly countdown on the number that's presented in Training Peaks, it's given a little bit of a misconception here. So if you look, I have this week of training coming up, then I have this next week of training coming up, so that's 2 weeks, and then there's a third week of training and then the race. So really it's 3 weeks. There's 3 weeks of training left before the race. But if I look here in Training Peaks, it says 2 weeks until event. Now, I'm really not sure what may have gone into the way that Training Peaks calculates this. I have been a little bit confused about how many weeks are remaining before this race for a long time now. I've been off by a week. So, long story short, 3 weeks to go, even though there were 3 weeks last week. I think that right now, with 3 weeks out, I'm not quite to the point where I can say I'm tapering, where I'm taking things super easy. And as we dive into the training that I'm going to be doing this week, it'll be very obvious that no, this is not necessarily an easy week of training. However, I have successfully completed the bulk of the peak phase of my training, meaning most of the longest training sessions that I've had to do to get ready for this race are now in the rear view mirror, and I really just need to hang on, maintain, continue to accomplish the workouts on my training plan. Before I know it, I'll be ready to go. No more huge epic rides or huge runs to worry about. The rest of these 3 weeks is pretty manageable in my opinion. So let's dive in and I'll take a look at how last week's sort of final peak phase week went, and then we'll take a look at the next week of training. So diving in. Yeah, last week was, let me tell you, I was pretty tired going into it. I had a longish sort of ride last Sunday, 3 hours at a higher effort, 10K off the bike. And starting out this previous week of training, I had a rest day, essentially. Tried to take myself, put my feet up, relax as much as possible. I did yoga on Monday night in an effort to sort of, really recover as best as possible, stretch out. And then we started what was a very challenging 5 days of training. I really got a lot done in the next 5 days. So starting on Tuesday, I had a 90-minute Zone 2 easy bike and a 1 hour run. I was feeling pretty darn good on this bike ride. I did it here on the trainer. I was surprised how easy it felt to stay in my mid Zone 2. Usually the first ride of the week, I'm a little bit sort of tired and it's kind of hard to get into the power zone for me. But this was a pretty motivating ride. 90 minutes really flew by. I averaged 211 watts, which is sort of right in the middle of my Zone 2. And my heart rate stayed really under control, not even getting close to my Zone 2 heart rate. So great 90-minute ride. Started a little bit later in the day than normal, which led to me sort of running a little bit later in the day. I didn't start my run until about 12:20 p.m. And this is actually significant. You'll see why here in a second. So off the bike, I had the description here was a very easy paced run to promote blood flow, keep heart rate down. So these type of runs are a little bit challenging for me because a lot of times when I get out and run, I'm really paying attention to my pace, and I have like a sort of a minimum easy pace range that I'm trying to maintain. I kind of let that slide on this run. Anytime I see in my workout that says, hey, keep heart rate down, words like very easy, I really have to sort of give myself permission to run slower than I'm normally running, even on days when I'm running at my sort of easy pace. So I did my best to keep my heart rate as low as possible, average 144. The next day on Wednesday, so while I'm running on Tuesday here, I'm really thinking a lot about tomorrow because the next day, the next morning, I was set to run a 20-mile training run, which is the longest I'm running to get ready for Ironman Texas. So on Tuesday's run, I'm thinking about how I have to run 20 miles the next day, taking it super easy. It sort of dawned on me that if I kept the pace nice and easy, I could run about 6.2 miles in that hour. And then if I ran 20 miles the next day, that would be a combined 26.2 miles. And I thought that was pretty neat. So I was thinking about that the whole time I was running on Tuesday, just keeping my heart rate down. Honestly kind of stressing about the long run the next morning. Just thinking, man, I'm going to have to run for at least 2.5 hours tomorrow. Let's take it nice and easy, make sure I save all the energy I can to get ready for that big run. So Tuesday's training felt pretty good. On to Wednesday, the 2 hour, 42 minute run. My goodness. So I am very happy that I did this run, for a few reasons. One, I didn't want to do it. I tried to get out of it. I even asked my coach on Sunday, I was like, hey, do you really think I need to do this 20-mile training run? I have at the time I had a hard brick run scheduled for later in the week. And I was like, I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to recover for that brick run if I run this 20 miles. And my coach said, hey, don't worry about the brick run on Saturday. We'll cut that off. Just make sure you get this 20 miler done on Wednesday and have that be the focus. So tried to get out of it. Didn't work. And I'm really glad that I went out and did it because, I did another one of these 20-mile runs about 3 weeks ago and it really crushed me. I mean, I was just like, for 2 or 3 days afterwards, I was just like having trouble going up and down stairs. It really took a lot out of me. On this run, I ended up pacing it a little bit easier, a little bit slower. Ended up about 10 seconds per mile slower on average than the previous 20-mile run. And my heart rate was about 6 BPM lower on this one as well. That resulted in me feeling probably the best I've ever felt around the 2 hour mark in a run. Like, I actually had a moment around mile like 16 or 17 where I was still moving really good. In fact, I had sped up a little bit. I kind of ran the second, the last 8 miles of this 20 miles, I actually picked up the pace. So, the fact that I was running a little bit quicker that far into the run, I really couldn't help but kind of pat myself on the back and think, wow, like here I am, mile 17, 750 per mile, heart rate under control, starting to feel like I'm coming apart a little bit, but to be feeling that good at mile 16, 17 is really rare for me. I think it's probably the first time I've ever felt that good that far into a run. And I mean, what can I say? I mean, what more could I ask for, honestly? As someone coming into this feeling really stressed about running further than 13 or 14 miles, to be able to get a few more miles down the road and feel really good about it. I mean, that tells me that the training I've been doing is improving. Not only my body's ability to do it, but also my brain's ability to sort of handle it. Now, that being said, the last 2 miles were in sort of the discomfort zone for sure. Like, I got to that 18-mile mark and I could almost taste the finish, but I was still had to run 2 miles and I kind of felt things kind of starting to fall apart a little bit. But in the back of my head, I was telling myself, look, you ran 6.2 miles less than 24 hours ago. And that's what I was mentioning before, that I did the run a little bit later in the day. So I knew in the back of my head, even though it's a little weird, but I was like, this is kind of like running 26.2 miles. I just sort of did the first 6.2 miles, then ate dinner and went to sleep and sort of, obviously I didn't run the full thing continuously, but for some reason the idea of sort of hey, I'm not going from mile 18 to mile 20, I'm going from mile 24.2 to 26.2, in the last 24 hours was somehow really helpful for me to think about. And it sort of, it helped me feel like I was going to be able to do 26.2 miles on race day. And even though those last 2 miles on Wednesday's long run were really tough, it kind of felt like I was finishing a marathon because of my own mental gymnastics. And, I really was able to finish pretty well. The last 18 minutes or so, last 2.225 mile, my average pace was 8:09. My average heart rate was 166. And these are numbers that I feel like I can maintain. I feel like I could keep doing that, beyond 20 miles. And that's, like I said, can't ask for much more. So Wednesday, got it done, felt good about it. However, the next day on Thursday was when I really started to realize, how challenging this training was and how I really, yes, I got that 20-mile run done, but, the next day, being fatigued from that 20-mile run, I had a 2 hour and 30-minute interval ride on my bike. And I honestly, when I got on my bike on Thursday, as I was getting ready to do the ride, I really wasn't sure if I was going to be able to even hit the first interval. This was a ride that was pretty simple, but just kind of a gauntlet. 30-minute warm-up, and then the next 2 hours were all intervals. So it was a 10-minute pattern where I was riding 3 minutes in zone 3, 3 minutes in zone 4, and then 4 minutes recovery in zone 2. And like I said, I honestly, coming up on the first one, I was like, I'm not even sure I'm going to be able to do this. Like, I'm not even sure I'm going to be able to, do the first interval, considering how tired my legs were. But got the first one done, got the second one done, got the third one done, took a little bit of a break, kind of realized, I hit the target on all of those first 3, 9 more to go. Did another 4 of them here, took another little bathroom break, and then just, got back on the bike and attacked it for another 5 reps of that. And I got it done, I'm really, really, really sort of mentally, I wasn't sure I could do it, but my body just sort of performed and was like, yeah, you got this. So Thursday's ride was pretty tough. And, moving towards like the last few intervals here, like, let's see, that's the last zone 3 interval, 2:48. My zone 3 starts at 2:42, so I'm bang in there. And then we got 2:77 for the zone 4. That's a little bit low, but did my best. The last 2:45 for the zone 3, 3 minutes, and then I managed 300 watts for 3 minutes on the last interval. This is 2 hours and 22 minutes into the ride or whatever it was. Really, really, really proud of the fact that I was able to, just stick it out and, get through that 2 hour 30 ride. So Thursday, another big training day, especially considering how tired I was from the long run on Wednesday. Moving into Friday, went and swam the 2.4 mile distance in the pool. I had a little bit of a brain fart. For some reason, I thought that the distance was 4,026 yards. It's 4,226 or 4,224. Either way, I swam 200-ish yards shy of the distance. I wasn't about to hop back in the pool and do another 200. Got to the locker room, kind of looked at my phone and looked at the math and said, big takeaway from that swim, honestly, was that, I'll call that a 115, 2.4 mile swim because it took me 111 to swim. And then I had another 200 or so to do, go on air on the side of, a longer 200. So to get the 2.4 miles done under 115, I'm really happy with that, especially considering how fatigued I was from Wednesday and Thursday. I think I swam like a 109 at IRONMAN Florida. Honestly, anything under 120, I'm going to be good with at Ironman Texas. So it was good to sort of check that box. Nothing too remarkable. Again, the only thing about it that was sort of, special to me was that I was able to, keep that time in a range that I'm happy with, even though I had done so much running and biking the day before and on Wednesday. So Friday, good training day. Saturday, boom, boom, boom. Another big training day. I had a race rehearsal workout on Saturday. It was supposed to be 90 miles on the road. However, the weather was kind of challenging. I didn't want to go out there all by myself with the storms that were supposed to be coming in. I hopped on Zwift. I tried to set it up so that there'd be a route where I could, go pretty fast and sort of try to maybe average around 22, 23 miles an hour, like a really flat course in Zwift, right? So I could get to 90 miles as fast as possible. However, for some reason, my little character in Zwift started deviating. Next thing you know, I'm climbing up different KOMs. My little guy's going all over the place. And I didn't have the patience to sit there and try to navigate a flat route on the fly. So I decided to just call it 4 hours. The rehearsal asked me to basically pace myself like I want to on race day, with a little bit of a caveat that I was supposed to take the first hour very easy. So the way that I set this up, I rode the first hour at the very low end of my zone 2, around 190 watts. The second hour and third hour, I upped that effort and rode about in the middle of my zone 2. So the first hour, 190, okay? Second hour, about 212. Third hour, about 208. So that worked out to about 210 watts for the middle 2 hours. And then I hopped on my bike and got the last hour done at 232 watts, which is right up near the top of my zone 2. And I was very, very happy with the fact that I was able to really dump out and have the most power output for that last hour. I think that that's a really good sign that I should be able to ride around 210, 220 watts and feel comfortable during Ironman Texas, knowing that I should have the ability to ride that type of power for that type of distance. And if my heart rate is really under control, I might shoot a little bit higher towards the 230s, but really no more than that. I mean, that's going to be the maximum. And I was able to ride sort of at that maximum for the last hour of this training ride. And that was a big win for me. I will mention that, the last hour of the ride, unfortunately, despite the power being good, something in my right shoulder just sort of tapped out and got tight. I don't know if I pulled something or strained something, but the action of just holding myself up on the bike itself started to be really uncomfortable. Getting into the aero position was actually a little bit worse. But at the same time, in the back of my head, I recognize that this will probably take a couple of days to feel better, but I still have good range of motion. I was able to swim this morning. My shoulder has felt much worse and taken about a week to recover. I'll take it. Honestly, that 5 days of training in a row was so brutal. Yes, that last hour, of course, I'm not happy that my shoulder kind of locked up. I'm not happy, or I'm not that's not something I'm celebrating at all, obviously. But to have it happen in the last hour and to be able to complete all the training and just have this little bit of soreness, carrying into the next day or two, I think overall that's a pretty big win. So last week of peak phase training. Honestly, there's no more 4-hour rides, no more 20-mile runs. All right, let's take a look at this week. Today had just an easy swim to do, went and knocked that out this morning. Shoulder felt okay. Honestly, I felt worse driving to and from the pool with I have a 5-speed. That was more uncomfortable than swimming, so I'll take it. As soon as I got in the water and started swimming, I was like, oh, this isn't so bad. As soon as I got out and went to dry myself off with the towel, I was like, there it is. So, it's just one of those things. Tomorrow, I've got a big gear brick workout, total 2-hour bike and run. So already that's less than last Tuesday. I had 2.5 hours. This week's only 2 hours. Come on, So these little decreases in volume, they mean a lot to me. 90-minute ride, looks like main set is going to be 5 by 8 minutes in zone 3 big gear. No problem. I feel like I'm going to eat that ride for breakfast. No problem. Run is a little bit spicy. 30 minutes off the bike, but it's an interval run. 3-minute marathon, 3-minute half marathon, 3-minute 10K pace. Dang, that is pretty spicy. So that's going to be interesting. That's going to be my first run since the 20-miler. Woo! Let's see how this goes. So that's 30 minutes of pretty fast running. That's going to end up, if it all goes well, that's going to be a much faster pace off the bike than I'm used to. But I'm here for it. Let's go for it. On Wednesday, back to the pool, 1 kilometer continuous, 1,000 yards straight, increased pace every 200. Awesome. That sounds great. I can definitely knock that out. Thursday, 30-minute easy spin. Look at this. See, so it's like this is such a different training week, y'all. This is so different. 30-minute easy spin on Thursday. I already feel like I'm gonna have to go for a walk or a hike or something too. We'll see, or maybe another strength training session. I'm not sure. Friday, swim. Okay, this is that 15 by 200 workout. I've done this before. 5 by 4 by 3 by 2 by 1 by 200, increasing the pace as I go through each of these reps here. That should be a pretty good one, and I should feel pretty good on that one. 90 minutes of swimming, so I should swim the distance again on Friday. And then I have a 1 hour easy run or steady run at easy pace. That should be good. So 2.5 hours of training on Friday. Saturday, we have a 1 hour, 45-minute run with 4 by 1 mile at half marathon pace. A little bit more quicker pace running this week. So I've got this brick run, which is going to be spicy, an easy run on Friday, which is going to be easy, and then another interval run on Saturday. On to Sunday, I think there's also an interval run here. Yeah, there is. Goodness gracious. Sunday, 3 hours, HIM Sim Brick. That stands for Half Ironman Sim Brick. Obviously, I'm training for the full. This is just a half Ironman workout here. That's what it's called. 2 hour 15 bike, 2 by 40-minute low zone 3, 20-minute low zone 4, 5-minute zone 2. So that's going to be a fast bike ride, especially if I'm, if the weather's cooperative out there. 20-minute low zone 3s, that'll be low zone 4. That'll be probably a fast ride. So off the bike, we're doing 45 minutes as 4-minute marathon pace, 6-minute half marathon pace, 4-minute marathon pace, 1-minute walk. That's going to be tough. My goodness. Well, that is 3 pretty spicy runs for the week. 2 interval rides, 1 easy spin, 2 swims. It's another week of training, y'all. I think that looks pretty good. There's some stuff in there I'm really excited about, that 30-minute ride on Thursday, baby. Woo! It's going to be an interesting day. Well, hey, thank you so much for tuning in, joining me on this journey. Happy to be this far along in training, even though it's 1 more week than I thought. We got 3 weeks to go. I'll take it. As usual, if you have anything to comment on, if you have questions, anything that you see me talking about here in the training, feel free to hop in the comments. I'm very eager to respond and communicate with anybody that might want to chat about anything here in the videos. And stay tuned. I'll be back next week to talk through how this week went and take a look at the upcoming weeks of training as usual. So stay tuned. Hang in there. 3 more weeks. See you next time. Thank you.